I never thought I'd be the kind of guy writing something like this, the type of post that starts with, "My wife changed and I don't know what to do." But here I am. Before everything happened, before the surgery, I used to think we were good. Not perfect, no marriages, but solid. We laughed together, fought sometimes, made up, built routines that felt safe. She'd make fun of how I couldn't cook to save my life, and I'd tease her about her obsession with those ridiculous skincare routines that turned our bathroom into a chemistry lab. But that was her, and I loved it. Then, sometime last year, she started talking about just a little tweak. It started small, something about feeling more confident or refreshing her look. I brushed it off at first. Everyone wants to look younger. I get that. But she wasn't just talking about a haircut or a new outfit. She started following plastic surgeons on Instagram, watching before and after videos, comparing jawlines, lips, cheeks. I didn't take it seriously until she mentioned a consultation. "Babe, it's just to see what they'd say," she told me one evening while we were watching TV. "Yeah, but why do you even need that?" I asked. "You look fine." "Better than fine." She smiled but didn't really hear me. "I just want to feel like me again." That was the first time I realized she didn't see herself the way I saw her. Over the next few months, it became a regular topic. Every dinner conversation circled back to her face, her skin, her neck. I'd tell her she didn't need to change anything, that she was beautiful the way she was. But she'd roll her eyes and say, "You're supposed to say that." Like, my words didn't count because of the ring on my finger. I tried to be supportive without agreeing. That's a tricky line to walk. You don't want to sound controlling, but you also don't want to lie. Every time I said, "I don't think that's a good idea," she'd take it as judgment. I wasn't judging her. I just didn't want her to lose what made her her. Then came the day she told me she had scheduled the surgery. No more hypotheticals, no maybe later. It was booked, non-refundable deposit, the date set. I remember staring at the text on my phone like it was some kind of joke. When I got home that night, she was almost glowing with excitement. I asked if she was sure, and she said, "Absolutely. I can't wait." Her enthusiasm hit me like cold water. I realized I was too late to stop it, even if I'd wanted to. The week before the surgery, she kept saying things like, "You'll see. You'll love it." I tried to believe her. I told myself that if it made her happy, maybe it would make me happy too. That's what you do when you love someone. You try to adapt, even when it scares you. But deep down, there was a knot in my stomach. Something about the way she talked, the way she looked at herself in the mirror. It felt like she was already mourning her old face. And I didn't know it yet, but so was I. The morning of the surgery felt unreal. She was buzzing with energy like a kid before a big trip. I, on the other hand, couldn't shake this heavy dread sitting in my chest. "I'll be fine," she said while tying her hair into a ponytail. "It's routine. They do hundreds of these every month." "I know," I said, trying to sound calm. "It's just still surgery. Anesthesia, cutting, all that." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "You'll love the new me." That line stuck with me, the new me. It wasn't that I didn't want her to feel good about herself. It was that the old her was everything I loved. I didn't want new. I sat in the waiting room for hours. Every time someone in scrubs walked by, I'd glance up, expecting news. When the doctor finally came out, he had that polished, practiced grin surgeons always seem to have. "Everything went great," he said. "She'll be in recovery for a while, but the procedure was smooth." I nodded, said thank you, but my heart was still pounding. When I finally saw her, my stomach turned. Her face was swollen, bandaged, bruised, a stranger's face. I knew it was normal, part of the healing process, but still, it rattled me. She tried to talk, but the pain meds made her groggy. "I look awful, huh?" she mumbled. "No," I lied. "You look brave." At home, I took care of her. Helped her sit up, made smoothies, changed ice packs. The first week, she was wrapped in gauze like some sort of fragile porcelain doll. Every time I looked at her, I had to remind myself this was temporary. The real results would take time. That's what the doctor said, what she said, what I kept repeating in my head. The swelling went down, slowly. But as her face started taking shape again, I realized something was off. Her cheeks looked hollow in a way they never had before. Her lips, puffier. Her smile didn't move the same. It looked practiced, like it belonged to someone else trying to imitate her. One evening, she caught me staring. "What?" she asked, running her fingers over her jaw. "Nothing," I said quickly. "Just getting used to it." She frowned. "Used to what?" "To seeing you without the swelling," I said. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't buy it. A few days later, she started taking selfies again. Hundreds of them. Different angles, different filters. She'd stare at them like she was studying a stranger too. "It's so weird," she said. "I love it, but I still feel like I'm looking at someone else." That made two of us. By the third week, she was healed enough to go out. We went to dinner, and I noticed people glancing at her, not because she looked bad, but because she looked different. Almost too polished, like an AI-generated version of a real person. Even her voice seemed to carry differently when she spoke. She was glowing that night, telling me how free she felt, how confident. I smiled, nodded, and told her I was happy for her. But underneath that smile, something inside me was tightening. I couldn't explain it. It wasn't disgust. Not exactly. It was a kind of grief. Like I was sitting across from a woman who looked vaguely like my wife, but wasn't her anymore. That night, when we got home, she wanted to celebrate. She reached for me, kissed me. And for a moment, I tried. I really did. But when I opened my eyes, all I could see was the surgery, the stitches, the new angles that didn't belong to her face before. She didn't notice at first that I hesitated, but I did. And once you feel that hesitation, it's impossible to unfeel it. The first few weeks after she fully healed were the hardest. She was ecstatic, full of this new energy I didn't recognize. She started dressing differently, tighter clothes, more makeup, brighter colors. Everywhere we went, she wanted to take pictures. Restaurants, parks, even the grocery store. She'd hold up her phone, flash a pout, then look at me expectantly. Take one more. The lighting's weird. I kept telling myself this was just a phase, that she was riding the high of change. But every day, it felt like I was living with a stranger who was wearing my wife's voice. The worst part was pretending. Pretending I didn't flinch when I looked at her too long. Pretending the thought, God, what have you done to yourself? Didn't echo in my head. Pretending I was okay. I tried to be normal. I made dinner. I cracked jokes. I hugged her. But every time she leaned in for a kiss, something inside me tensed. Her lips didn't feel right. Too stiff, too swollen, like they belonged to someone else. One night, while we were lying in bed, she asked, "Why don't you ever start things anymore?" I froze. What do you mean? You know what I mean. Her voice was soft, almost afraid. You used to touch me all the time. Now I have to ask? I forced a laugh. Work's been insane lately. She didn't laugh back. You're lying. I rolled over and faced the wall. I'm just tired. The silence that followed was heavy. She turned off the lamp and lay there quietly, but I could tell she was awake for hours. I could feel it. The tiny movements, the sound of her sighing into the dark. The next morning, she acted cheerful, but her eyes were swollen. You're sure everything's okay between us? She asked while pouring coffee. Yeah, of course, I said. She smiled, but it was one of those smiles that didn't reach her eyes. From then on, she started watching me. If I scrolled through my phone, she'd glance over. If I got a text, she'd ask, "Who's that?" If I stayed late at work, she'd ask for a picture just to see your face. It wasn't paranoia, it was fear. She knew something had changed, even if I refused to admit it. I told myself I'd get over it, that my brain would catch up, that I'd eventually see her again underneath all the changes. But the truth was, the more time passed, the less I recognized her. There were flashes of the old her, when she laughed without thinking, or when she wore one of my hoodies with her hair up and no makeup. For a second, I'd see my wife again. But then she'd glance in the mirror, adjust her lips, tilt her chin, and she'd be gone. One night, she confronted me again. I feel like you're avoiding me, she said. I'm not. You barely touch me. You barely look at me. I sighed. You're imagining things. Her eyes filled with tears. Then, look at me right now and tell me you still find me beautiful. I froze. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But the words stuck in my throat. She waited. Then her face hardened. You can't even say it. She left the room, slamming the door behind her. That night, I slept on the couch. The next morning, she didn't say a word to me. She just sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone, her face blank. The silence between us felt like a wall I didn't know how to climb anymore. I thought about apologizing. But for what? For not being able to control what I felt? For not wanting to lie anymore? Instead, I just said, "Coffee?" She shook her head. I already had some. And just like that, our routine became a quiet, uneasy dance around each other. Two people sharing a home, but not a life. It started with small things. She began checking my location on my phone, asking for pictures when I said I was working late. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured she was just feeling insecure, maybe still adjusting to her new look. But then she started asking questions that made my stomach twist. Do you still love me? Are you seeing someone else? Just tell me if you are. I'd rather hear it from you. I laughed it off the first few times, but the laughter didn't help. It only made her angrier. You think this is funny? She snapped one night while we were getting ready for bed. No, I said quietly. I just don't know where this is coming from. It's coming from the fact that my husband won't touch me. Her voice cracked on that last word. She turned away quickly, covering her face with her hands. I stood there helplessly, feeling like the worst person alive. I'm not cheating on you, I said. She didn't look at me. Then, why do you act like I disgust you? That hit harder than I expected, because the truth was, I didn't think she was disgusting. I just couldn't see her anymore. I don't, I said finally. You're imagining things. Don't gaslight me. Please, she said through tears. I can feel it. You pull away when I touch you. You keep the lights off. You don't even look at me when I talk sometimes. I know something's wrong. I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Then she said, "Let me see your phone." I hesitated for half a second, not because I had anything to hide, but because I hated what that moment meant. The loss of trust. The way she looked at me like I was a stranger. Fine, I said, unlocking it and handing it to her. She sat on the couch scrolling through my messages, my emails, my photos. I stood there for almost an hour, listening to the faint sound of her fingers tapping on the screen. At one point, she said quietly, "You even deleted the dating apps." "You must have done it before I asked. I never had any," I said flatly. When she finally put the phone down, her face was pale. "You're telling the truth. I told you that from the beginning." "Then why—" She stopped, pressing her palms to her eyes. "Then why are you treating me like this?" I could have lied again. I could have said it was stress, burnout, depression. Anything. But I was tired. Tired of pretending, tired of walking around the truth like it was a minefield. So I said it, softly but clearly. "It's your face." She froze. "What?" I don't know how else to say it. "You changed so much. I know you're still you, but when I look at you now, something feels off. I don't feel the same." For a second, she just stared at me, like she couldn't process the words. Then her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, "So, you think I'm ugly now?" "No, not ugly, just not you." She let out a small broken laugh. "You're unbelievable. You say you love me, but the moment I do something for myself, you stop wanting me." "It's not about that," I tried to explain. "It's not about you being confident or not. It's just, I miss your old face, the one I fell in love with." She shook her head slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Do you even hear yourself? You're punishing me for changing. You're punishing me for trying to feel better." I wanted to argue, to say that wasn't true, but deep down, maybe it was. She stood up and grabbed her bag. "I need space." "Wait, don't—" "I'm staying at my sister's," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't even look at you right now." The door slammed behind her and the house fell silent. I sat down on the couch, staring at my phone, the same one she had just been scrolling through for an hour. No missed calls, no messages, no proof of betrayal, just silence. And the worst part? I didn't even know if I regretted telling her the truth. The house was too quiet after she left. No footsteps, no hairdryer in the morning, no humming in the kitchen while she made coffee. Just silence. Thick, heavy, echoing through every room like guilt. I didn't sleep that first night. I kept expecting her to text, to call, to at least yell, but nothing came. When I finally closed my eyes, it was already dawn, and her side of the bed still smelled faintly like her shampoo. That lavender scent I used to find comforting. Now just a reminder of everything I'd broken. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from her sister. "You're a piece of shit." That was the entire message. No context, no explanation. Just that. An hour later, another message popped up from one of her friends. "Someone I barely even talked to. Can't believe you said that to her. You disgust me." Then another. "She's devastated. You should be ashamed." By the end of the day, my phone looked like a crime scene. A string of angry messages, accusations, and insults. I didn't answer any of them. What could I say? Yeah, I told her I don't find her attractive anymore, but at least I was honest. Honesty doesn't sound noble when it's weaponized by pain. I tried calling her once. She didn't answer. Then I left a voicemail. "Hey, I just wanted to say I didn't mean to hurt you. I was trying to be honest because I thought that's what you wanted. I still love you. I stopped there. Because what? Just what? I couldn't finish the sentence without making it worse. The next few days were slow torture. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was her, but it never was. I'd catch myself looking at old pictures of us. The ones before the surgery. Her smile was softer then, her eyes brighter. But what really killed me was realizing how little I'd appreciated it at the time. Back then, I thought beauty was constant, that she'd always look like that she'd always be that. I never thought about how fragile it was, how quickly it could all change, not just physically, but emotionally. By the fourth night, I started doubting myself. Maybe I was cruel. Maybe I could have said it differently. Or not at all. Maybe love means lying sometimes. But then again, was it really lying or protecting? If I had kept pretending, would she have been happier? Or would she have eventually seen through me and hated me even more for hiding it? I thought about the moment I told her the truth, the look in her eyes right before she broke down. It wasn't anger at first. It was shock, then heartbreak. I didn't just wound her pride, I shattered her sense of self. The next morning, her sister called. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail anyway. You destroyed her. You couldn't just support her for once, could you? You made it all about you. You're pathetic. Her voice shook with fury, and I couldn't even defend myself. Because maybe she was right. Maybe my honesty wasn't bravery. Maybe it was cowardice, the kind that hides behind truth to avoid the effort of compassion. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a beer, staring at the dim reflection of my face in the window. For the first time, I wondered what she saw when she looked at me. Probably someone plain, someone tired, someone who'd stopped trying years ago. I whispered into the quiet, would I still love me if the roles were reversed? No answer, of course. Just silence and static. The kind that fills your chest when you realize you might have been the villain in your own story all along. It had been almost a week since she left when my phone finally lit up with her name. My heart jumped so hard I almost dropped it. For a second, I thought about letting it ring, rehearsing what to say, but my hands were already moving. Hey, I said, my voice hoarse. But it wasn't a call. It was a text. Just 2 sentences. I'm not ready to talk. Please don't contact me for a while. That was it. No love, no maybe later, nothing to hold on to. Just a clean, polite cut. I stared at those words for a long time. They looked so formal. Like something you'd send to a coworker, not a husband. I wanted to reply, to beg, to explain, to fix it, but I didn't. She asked for space, and for once, I decided to give it to her. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Without the anger, without the yelling or the messages from her friends, there was nothing left but emptiness. Just the sound of my own thoughts looping like a broken record. That night, I went through our photos again. I'd already done this a dozen times, but this time I opened the oldest ones, the ones buried deep in my camera roll. There she was, laughing in the passenger seat of my old car. Sunlight hitting her hair, freckles on her nose. No filters, no poses, no fillers. Just her. I could almost hear her voice again. That high, easy laugh she had before she became so careful about everything. Before every smile turned into a curated performance for a front-facing camera. I realized I hadn't seen her laugh like that in months, maybe even years. Somewhere along the way, she stopped being happy with herself and started performing as herself. And I never noticed. Or worse, I noticed and didn't care enough to stop it. Was this my fault too? Maybe if I'd told her more often that she was beautiful, not just in passing, but really meant it, maybe she wouldn't have gone looking for that validation elsewhere. Maybe she wouldn't have felt like she needed to rebuild her face just to feel worthy. The thought hit me hard. I'd been so focused on not controlling her choices that I ended up being absent. Passive. I thought I was being respectful, but maybe I was just being lazy. Later that night, I opened a blank text message. I started typing, erased it, started again. Over and over. I miss you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just want you back. Every version sounded selfish. Every word felt like another demand, so I didn't send anything. I walked around the house instead, aimlessly. Every room was a memory. The kitchen where she once made a mess trying to bake cookies from scratch. The couch where she'd curl up against me during thunderstorms. Even the damn bathroom mirror. The same mirror where she used to complain about her reflection. The same one I'd stand behind her and say, "You're perfect." And I meant it every time. Now I stood there alone, looking at my own reflection. For the first time, I noticed the lines around my eyes, the gray in my beard, the tired look I couldn't quite hide anymore. And I wondered, if I came home one day with a new face, would she feel the same way I do now? Would she recoil? Would she grieve the man she married? Probably. But the difference is, I'd still see her underneath the changes. I know I would. Because no matter how much she changed, I couldn't stop loving her, even if looking at her now hurts. It's a strange thing, to love someone's soul but flinch at their face. It makes you feel like a monster. Before going to bed, I reread her message one more time. Please don't contact me for a while, I whispered to the dark. Okay. But I'll still be here when you're ready. Then I turned off the phone, lay back, and stared at the ceiling, wondering if she'd ever actually want to see me again. It was a Thursday afternoon when I heard the sound of keys in the lock. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it. The soft jingle, the click. But then the door opened, and there she was. My chest tightened. She looked different again. Not because of the surgery this time, but because she wasn't trying. Her hair was tied messily, no makeup, no bright clothes. She wore one of my old hoodies, the sleeves pushed up to her elbows. For a moment, she looked more like her than she had in months. Hey, I said, quietly. She didn't answer. She walked past me, straight to the bedroom. It took me a few seconds to realize what she was doing, pulling suitcases out from under the bed, opening drawers, stacking folded clothes with cold efficiency. You're moving out? I asked. I'm taking some things, she said flatly. Her voice was calm, but not steady. I wanted to say something, but every phrase in my head sounded wrong. I miss you. Too needy. Let's talk. Too desperate. Please don't go. Too late. So instead, I just stood there, watching her fold her life into a suitcase. After a while, she sighed. You could help, you know. Do you want me to? She stopped folding and looked up at me. I don't know what I want from you anymore. That hit harder than I expected. She went back to packing. The silence was unbearable. Finally, I said, I got your message. Good. I didn't text because you asked me not to. She nodded slightly. I know. Another pause. I felt like every second that passed was cutting another thread between us. Then, out of nowhere, she said, Do you realize how cruel that was? My throat tightened. What I said? Yes. You told me I was unrecognizable. You said I didn't look like myself. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? She snapped, her voice cracking. Because I've replayed that conversation 100 times, and there's no version where it doesn't sound like you hate looking at me. I wanted to defend myself, but there was nothing to defend. She was right. I'd said what I felt, and it was cruel, no matter how softly I said it. I don't hate looking at you, I said finally. It's just, I miss the way you used to look. It's like grieving someone who's still alive. Her hands froze mid-fold. So I died to you? The words hung in the air like smoke. I swallowed hard. No. But it feels like I lost something, and I don't know how to get it back. She looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes were red, tired, but not angry, just empty. You didn't lose anything, she said quietly. You just refused to see me. Then she zipped the suitcase shut. The sound was final. As she lifted it off the bed, I said, Can I ask you something? She paused. What? Are you happy with how you look now? She hesitated. Some days. Some days I feel like I did the right thing. Other days I don't recognize myself either. That honesty hurt more than anything else she could have said. She looked at me again. Softer, this time. You could have just said that you were scared. Instead, you made me feel disgusting. I didn't mean to. I know, she said, her voice breaking. That's what makes it worse. She rolled her suitcase toward the door. For a second, I thought she'd stop. Maybe turn back, maybe say something, but she didn't. Before stepping outside, she looked at me one last time. I'm staying with my sister for a while. Don't wait up, then she left. The door clicked shut, and I realized I'd been holding my breath. The air in the room still carried her scent, faint and fading, like a ghost that didn't know it was supposed to leave yet. I sank down onto the bed, staring at the half-empty dresser. She said I refused to see her. But what if she was right? What if the problem wasn't her face? It was mine. The first few days after she left, I went through the motions like a robot. Work, emails, coffee, lunch, meetings, repeat. But every task felt hollow. Every smile I forced at colleagues felt like a lie. Even the fluorescent lights in the office seemed harsher, reflecting back a man I barely recognized. I tried to keep busy to avoid thinking about her. I ran errands I didn't need to run, cleaned the apartment obsessively, even reorganized the kitchen cabinets, all of it meaningless, all of it a distraction. At night, the apartment felt enormous, the bed too wide, her side completely empty, her pillow untouched. I couldn't stop noticing the small things, the mug she always left on the counter, the towel she hung crookedly, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. I went through the old photos again, not just the cheerful ones, the messy, ordinary ones, the ones where her hair was frizzy or she had a smudge of chocolate on her cheek, the ones where she rolled her eyes at me when I tried to dance in the living room. I missed those moments more than I had realized. They were small, ridiculous, perfect, and now they were gone. People at work started noticing. "You okay, man?" one of my coworkers asked, looking at me over the rim of his coffee cup. "Yeah," I said automatically. But the truth was, I hadn't been okay since the moment I told her the truth. The nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering her laugh, the curve of her smile, the way she used to look at me like I was the only person in the world that mattered. I knew I'd hurt her, yes, but I didn't realize how much I was hurting myself too. Sometimes I imagined calling her just to hear her voice. Other times, I imagined her never coming back, never forgiving me, never trusting me again, and finally seeing me as the selfish, cruel man I feared I had become. I couldn't eat properly. Food tasted bland, like it had lost its meaning. Even things I used to enjoy, music, TV, jogging, felt hollow. It was like the color had been drained from the world. Her sister called once. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "Stop torturing yourself. You've already done enough. I didn't know if she meant me or my wife. Maybe both." I tried to write in my journal, something I hadn't done in years. My pen moved slowly, awkwardly. I wanted to capture the feeling, the emptiness, the regret, the grief, but the words felt insufficient. They were flat, lifeless, just like my days now. Friends reached out, asking if I wanted to hang out. I declined. I didn't want to see anyone. Not because I hated them, because everyone else reminded me of the life I used to have, and that life didn't exist anymore. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt, hoping it was her. And every time, disappointment sank in deeper than before. I started wondering if I was even the same person who had married her. I'd loved her with a kind of reckless abandon once, a kind of total devotion. Now, that part of me felt buried under guilt, regret, and a quiet despair I couldn't shake. I loved her. I knew that. But loving her wasn't enough to make me look at her face and feel anything but disorientation and grief. And that was the cruelest part. Because I didn't just miss her. I missed the version of myself who could look at her and feel nothing but love. It had been nearly a month since she left. I was starting to settle into a fragile routine. Work, sleep, empty evenings, scrolling through old photos when loneliness became unbearable. Then one morning, my phone buzzed, a notification from an unknown number. I opened it slowly. "I found that old book you liked. Thought of you. M." My stomach dropped. Just one line, cryptic, minimal, but it carried the weight of 1,000 emotions. I stared at it for what felt like hours. My first instinct was to text back, to demand clarity, to say, "Come home." But I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. Later that week, she appeared in my dreams. Not in the way dreams usually are, blurred, hazy, but vivid. She was laughing the way she used to, sunlight, catching the tips of her hair. I reached for her, but she faded before I could touch her. I woke up with tears on my pillow, the empty side of the bed aching beside me. Then came another message. "Saw a movie today. Reminded me of us. Hope you're doing okay. M." I didn't reply immediately. I stared at it for hours, reading and rereading the words, imagining her typing them, her face softened, a hint of vulnerability there that she never showed me in person lately. I couldn't tell if it was hope or punishment, if she was testing me, or if she was simply reaching out because she missed what we had too. Every part of me wanted to respond, to tell her how much I missed her, how sorry I was, how empty it's been without her. But another part of me hesitated, terrified. Terrified that if I reached out, I'd somehow make things worse. Terrified that seeing her again would be the moment I realized the new face was permanent, and I'd be confronted with the same grief I've been hiding. Every text, every small gesture from her, felt like a tiny earthquake shaking the ground I thought I'd rebuilt for myself. I caught myself replaying our last in-person conversation over and over, her rolling that suitcase, the empty, tired look in her eyes. I remembered her words. You just refused to see me. And now, here she was, sending me little pieces of herself, testing the distance, reminding me that she existed outside of my regret. I wanted to respond, but I didn't know how. For days, I oscillated between hope and fear. Every notification made my heart pound, every silence made it sink. Finally, one evening, I sat on the couch and muttered aloud as if she could hear me. I don't know if I can love you the same way again, or if I even want to. But I also don't know if I can live without trying. The room was dark, the air heavy. My phone sat on the coffee table, glowing softly with her last message. I wanted to pick it up. I wanted to text her, but I was terrified of what that text might cost me. And for the first time in weeks, I felt completely powerless. Because this wasn't about who was right or wrong anymore. This was about whether love could survive a fracture that neither of us could fully understand. The apartment was quiet, almost unbearably so. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the faint glow of my phone. Her last message still blinked at me. I can't stop thinking about last week. I don't know what I want. For days I had avoided responding. Afraid. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of hurting her again. Afraid of facing the truth that I might never feel the same way. But something inside me shifted that evening. I realized that doing nothing, waiting in silence, was letting everything collapse entirely. I got up, grabbed my jacket, and stepped outside. The hallway smelled faintly of cleaning products and stale air. Each step felt heavy, but purposeful. And there she was, standing at the end of the corridor, hesitant, arms crossed loosely. The polished face I had struggled to accept softened by vulnerability. She didn't move when she saw me. I didn't move. We just stood there, two halves of a fracture neither of us had fully understood. I'm sorry, I said first. My voice shook. I've been awful. I've hurt you, but I want to try, if you'll let me. She studied me in silence, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Then she exhaled slowly, letting her shoulders drop. Do you really mean it? She asked. I nodded. Yes. I can't promise it'll be easy. I can't promise I won't struggle. But I do promise I'll try. To see you, to love you, to be here. Her lips trembled into a small, cautious smile. Okay, she whispered. She stepped forward. Not all the way, but far enough to close the distance between us. I reached out and took her hand in mine. It was warm, familiar, and terrifying all at once. We didn't speak again in words. There was no grand declaration, no magic fix. Just a quiet understanding, a tentative bridge built from mutual willingness. The first step was the hardest, but it was a step. As we walked together back into the apartment, side by side but not yet touching fully, I realized something important. Love wasn't a guarantee. Trust wasn't restored with one conversation. But hope, fragile and trembling, could survive the fracture. And sometimes, hope was enough. Reading his story, I can't stop thinking about how complicated love and honesty can be. On one hand, he was truthful about his feelings, a difficult, vulnerable act. On the other hand, his honesty caused deep pain. It makes me wonder how much honesty is too much, and when protecting someone's feelings is actually the right choice. So I want to ask you, readers, what would you do in his position? Was he wrong to be honest, or was staying silent the real betrayal? How do you balance truth and love in a situation like this?